Hey everybody, welcome to episode 11. This is going to be a fairly short episode because I want to go over something that I made a mistake early on in this program. So if you remember, when I redid these pre-selects, I put these rubber caps on them. Let me see if I can make it a little bit easier for you to see. And what I did was, of course, I replaced all the wires and I put these little lugs on here thinking that would be a great idea. Well, kinda is, but the problem is if you need to move this preset, it hits the tube. Bad idea. So, I've found a new solution. I've done it for all of these, except for the last one. And I'm going to show you how I do it. And I like these because they actually look really original, just like they did before I took them off to replace the wires. So let's go through it. Show you what I did. First thing I'm going to do is remove this wire from here, just with a soldering iron. Okay, there's our wire. That was an ordeal. Now we're going to take this little tab off here. Don't need it. Not going to use it. Alright, we're going to clean the solder that's on the tip of this thing because we're going to need to apply new solder there. Then we're going to take some alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and we're going to clean this thing. Make sure it's clean. Then we're going to take a look at this wire here and strip it back. 24. Let's see if that works. There we go. Okay. So all wire stripped. So here's what we're going to do. Let me focus this camera down here for a moment. Okay, I think you can see this. So I have this bag of copper washers, and they are exactly the right size that fit over those posts. I don't remember the exact size. I'm going to have to look it up and I'll share it with you when I get it. But these washers right here are perfect. Now when I look at these, they're a little bit tarnished because they're copper. So we're going to just run them over with the sandpaper. Just like that. Rough them up a little bit. I'm going to use 2 of them. Okay. Let's focus our camera back up here. Here's the post we're going to work on. So first thing I'm going to do is put a washer on there. Goes right down. Is this thing focused? I hope so. There we go. Then we're going to take this wire and wrap it around the post as low as we can go. Take our needle nose and make sure we crimp it around there. Okay, that fits good. I'm going to lay this wire down so it doesn't move. And we're going to take a little bit of this flux, liquid flux. Just going to put a drop right on there. Okay. And then we're going to take our second washer and we're going to put that right on top. We're going to make a sandwich, just like that. Then we're going to take our soldering iron and we're just going to melt it all together. Okay, now that we have our pre-selects all wired the correct way, and I'll show you what it looked like before I changed the wires right there, and you'll see it looks, again, pretty good. Good focus there. Okay. So what's next? Our next step is going to be to connect the motor. We're going to put the phenolic wheel back in right here, and we're going to start testing the motor. Now, if you recall, when I showed you this thing last, I had those controls in a plastic bag. I created, I'll flip this around and show you. I created this piece of plastic just so that I can mount this thing and keep it solid. I took off the bowl that the dial pointer goes in and just mounted this, and I've got the buttons back here connected to it. So now I don't have to worry about these things flopping around, which is good. And once we get the the phenolic wheel in the back connected, we'll be able to test this thing. Now, one thing I want to mention about these push buttons, very important. We'll get to this later as well. So these push buttons, you'll see there's contacts in there. I'll move this one so you can see it. See that? Well, the problem with this radio design is that if the springs that are connected to these push buttons are weak, broken, missing, what will happen is the button will stay depressed and that motor will keep spinning. And what that does is burn out the transformer. It's a common design problem with this thing. So we're going to make sure when we put this thing together that all the springs that are in there are going to be appropriate. And also when I test it, I got to make sure all these buttons are pushed out because I don't want that motor spinning automatically. I only want to push it when I need it. So I'm going to consider how I'm going to do that before I actually test it. I may just put the springs and the buttons on there, and I'll show you those in a second because it's been a while. But I may just put all that together here, and I have to see if this template the holes need to be widened. But I have to just be really careful about that because this motor is not meant to run for a long period of time. So I just want to make sure I avoid that problem. And let's see, got our bulbs in here, so we're good there. And I think the next step is let's get the motor connected and let's test it. Let me show you the pieces that we're going to put back on here, and we'll do that now. Okay, let's go through this stuff one at a time. So first of all, here's our bezel. We haven't seen this in a while. There's our nice little Silvertone. We're not going to clean it. We're not going to shine it. We're not going to polish it. We're not going to touch it because we don't want it to look new. We want it to look original. So the only thing we're going to need to do, though, is replace this dial glass. It's actually plastic. And you'll see that the way that it's in there is just with a couple of rivets. There's one there. And there's one there. So the way that we're going to handle that is we have a new dial glass right here. I got this when I first got the unit. So here's the new dial glass right here. And they actually give you the rivets to replace. And they call them eyelets actually. And there's a setting tool which I already have. So that's going to be how we'll replace that. Here's the phenolic wheel we're talking about. This is the one that goes on the back in the electronic tuning. And I'm going to have to clean these contacts a little bit better. They're a little tarnished. This camera does not focus good. So we're going to have to clean those up and before we reinstall that. But that's going to be the plan, is to get that cleaned up. And then lastly is our push buttons. So you probably remember this because I showed you this early on in the series. Let's open this up. I'm trying to use one hand here. There we go. So these are the new push buttons that are going to go on here. Okay, and these were made by, I think it was Mark Opat, if I recall. It was so long ago. But you'll see that he made these things. They fit perfectly. There's two pieces to them. There's the actual push button, and there's a brass ring, and then there's a call letter in there. Why does this thing not focus? There it is. So there's a call letter in there. So that's what we're going to do now. There's instructions on how to do this, and Mark actually provides a tool to do that as well, which is right here. And I'm going to show you that process when we get to it, but there's obviously an easy way to do it, I assume. So the only thing that we're going to need to make sure of is that we have the right springs, and the springs are good. Let me show you what the springs look like too. So this is where the problem comes in, because if you remember when I got my radio, it was missing all the buttons. I think I had one button on there. And the one button we had that spring. No idea if it's right or wrong. No clue. So I'm going to have to figure out if these are the right springs that will go on here and help make sure that that button does not stay depressed against the contact. So I'm going to need to do a little bit of experimentation and find out what are the right springs that I need to use. That shouldn't be a problem. There was also another one in here. Look at this thing. don't know if you can see that. Yeah, look at that. So it's a miracle that the motor actually wasn't burnt out, or you know what, it could be. We'll find out. Here's our dial pointer. Here's one of the original buttons. It's just the wood base, so very much different than what we have over here. And I have a couple of them. Here's another one. So we're gonna take our time on that one and see what it looks like. One of them didn't even have a spring. So that's going to be what we do next, is to try to get all of this connected the right way. And I can tell by looking at this that I think I'm going to have to make those holes a little bit bigger in the plastic here. This button will not fit through there. So that's going to be an exercise for later. So that's where we are here, guys. That's just an update for you. So we've gotten the back all set up. We're going to start getting ready to put these buttons on and that kind of thing. What I'll do, I think, is before I put the buttons on, I'm going to test the motor out. And what I'll do is I'll slip a piece of paper down here so that these buttons don't depress, and I'll just leave one open so I can test it. I just want to make sure the motor works because I've never seen it work. So that's going to be the plan. If it doesn't work, we'll deal with it. But that's going to be what we do going forward. So we're getting close to the end here, guys. And then we're going to put in our green eye tube, which I have the socket laying up here, and we'll see how that works. So that's kind of what we're up against. So in the next episode, I think we will demonstrate the motor. I'm going to do that in the next episode. Need to do my research first, and we'll have this addressed where we put the buttons on, so that we can make sure that we're going to be behaving safely. I'll work out the spring deal and see if I can get some information on what kind of springs belong in there. Sorry about that, my phone rang. So just to wrap up, that's what you're going to see next. And we'll have this radio playing. I'm also going to take the speaker out of the case and start working on the derust of that. So I'll take a short little video of that for the next episode as well. All right, hope everybody's well. Take care.